Hello Julians! Now today we're going to explore two ideas, nuclear fusion and nuclear fission, and think about what would happen if I dropped my bacon sandwich inside a fusion reactor. Now let's say you were incredibly hungry, exceptionally hungry, and for some reason your bacon sandwich fell into a working fusion reactor. Now, you're probably wondering, what would happen if I just reached inside and grabbed my fusion reactor? Now, spoiler alert, you would have no hands. Now, let's get into the science. Now, on the page in front of you, you'll see a boy with a head on fire. Now, this is not actually on fire. This is supposed to be his brain exploding in incredible curiosity. The sun over here, this little nuclear fusion reactor. And at the top here, now this, please don't be confused. This is not actually orange broccoli. This is actually a nuclear fission, nuclear reaction, mushroom cloud. So basically, today's lesson is a little bit of science and a lot of catastrophic curiosity. We're comparing nuclear fission, which we've used for decades where we break atoms apart, with nuclear fusion, which starts with the power from the sun and our wildest dreams. Now, simply, nuclear fission is when basically you take some atoms and they get smashed into by some neutrons. Now here, the little green ones are the neutrons. So remember, stuff like hydrogen doesn't have a neutron. It has a proton, it has an electron. But a little bit later, you'll see that when you smash two hydrogen atoms together, you get helium. And helium has neutrons. But right now, let's talk about nuclear fission. So when we break apart an atom, it releases an incredible amount of energy, like our nuclear fission reaction right here. Now, basically, you get a chain reaction. You break open one atom, and that crashes into another atom and breaks the next atom open. And you have a chain reaction. Now, the chain reaction releases an incredible amount of energy. It's the principle behind nuclear power plants and atomic bombs. Again, Exhibit A, our mushroom cloud from a nuclear bomb. And basically, this nuclear fission reaction is the thing which powers nuclear power stations. Okay? Controlled fission is basically a nuclear reactor. It doesn't explode. It doesn't get outside of the walls. And uncontrolled fission is a nuclear bomb, which is obviously a massive problem. Now, you might be wondering, well, you know what, if we just crack open some uranium atoms and we release all of this magnificent nuclear fission energy, then, well, we could put it to use. We could power a microwave. Don't power your microwave by splitting uranium atoms, because you'll die, everybody else will die, and you'll have to basically invent a new name for the huge crater that used to be your hometown. Now, let's talk about nuclear fusion. Nuclear fusion is a lot groovier. It's fantastic. And basically, the smiling sunshine over here is a fusion machine. You take two atoms and you mush them together. It's literally as crass and crude and simple as that. So here we have two hydrogen atoms. And if we smash them together, it releases an incredible amount of energy. Far more than a nuclear fission reaction. In fact, nuclear fusion is literally the big daddy of energy production. By doing this, you can basically change everything. The sun is one giant fusion machine. It is a constant cycle of fusion reactions. If you take these two hydrogen atoms, the simplest atoms we know, with one proton in the middle and one electron on the outside, zooming around, and you smash them together, you basically create a new atom. You are forming something else. So you take two electrons, you take two protons, and then suddenly you form a new atom, helium. Now, what's the big benefit of this approach compared to the disgustingly radioactive fission approach? Well, first of all, it's not going to blow up your house, although you probably would if you messed around with it. It doesn't leave a huge amount of radioactive waste. It doesn't leave you with all kinds of problems. It's not going to get out of control. It's a far more reliable reaction. But there are a couple of problems. A, the temperature of the sun is about 100 million degrees Celsius, which is obviously a bit of a problem because you can't just go and boil the kettle to start a fusion reaction. You need to get things a little bit hotter. So let's compare some of the key differences. Now, when we are talking about nuclear fission, we're talking the stuff in red. When we're talking about nuclear fusion, we're talking about the stuff in green. So when we have a nuclear fission reaction, we have a big split of big atoms into smaller atoms. The energy release is high, great, fantastic, that's what we want. However, it is incredibly radioactive, which decays slowly and basically is deadly for thousands of years. Now, where do we use it? We use it in power stations, and the temperature of this reaction is about 300 to 600 degrees Celsius. Now we're talking crazy temperatures, we're just talking pretty normal stuff. Does it have a chain reaction? Yes, and that's one of the big problems, because if it gets out of control, you are toast and everybody around you. Now, if we take a look at the fusion reactions basically combine tiny atoms into larger atoms. It releases even more energy than a fission reaction. It is not very radioactive, so the waste is low. It is used by nobody except the sun. So obviously, look at this, there's a little tiny sun from my light bulb. It's just shining on it. Perfect timing, look at that. So it's used by the sun, nobody else yet. Now the temperature of this reaction is about 100 million degrees Celsius, which is obviously a bit of a challenge if you want to do this in your living room. And is there a chain reaction? Well, not usually. Now, if we come back to our intrepid explorer who's trying to retrieve his bacon sandwich from a fusion reactor, if you recall, his hands basically vaporized, which was terribly bad luck. But we have a few questions, okay? So, I mean, what would happen if you really did, in fact, try to retrieve your bacon sandwich from a fusion reactor? Well, the first thing is you'd be absolutely incinerated by the extreme as hot as the sun temperature, basically hotter than the sun's core temperature. So that's obviously a bit of a disadvantage. You would basically slowly, in fact, not slowly, you would almost instantaneously be incinerated by the reaction. So that's a bit of a disadvantage. The second thing is you never even get close. You would be vaporized by the magnetic fields. So anything that tried or dared to even get close to this fusion reaction would be completely vaporized. So, I mean, that's not really an attractive prospect if I were you. Now, the third thing is, if you somehow did manage to get over here, you managed to reach, and you just put your hand inside the fusion reactor, essentially, you would cease to exist. Your atoms would cease to exist. Because guess what? Fusion reactions take atoms and then they smash them with other atoms, creating completely new things. So basically, the outcome for you would be pretty dire, I have to say. Now you may be thinking, well, I mean, this all sounds quite difficult to do. What's the point of even trying to build a fusion reactor? Well, over in France, that's exactly what they're trying to do right now. They are trying to build a fusion reactor. And why is that a challenge? Well, it's a challenge because it's like building a sun inside a box. There's obviously a few things that could go wrong with this idea. So if we crack the box, oh my goodness, everybody could be blown up. If we crack this idea, then it could mean unlimited clean energy for everybody. Now, very, 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 very important. Fission is like the old school radioactive heavyweight boxing champion of the world. It's the one everybody knows. You don't like it a great deal because it's a bit boring and it's still quite dangerous. But fusion is the flashy, ultra-hot prospect for the future. Both are absolutely incredibly cool, both are incredibly terrifying, and both will absolutely incinerate your bacon sandwich if you try to get it out of there. So my recommendation is don't build one in your house. Although if you go to university and become a scientist, then you can basically lead the future to build a new fusion reactor. Now, please, if you like the video and you like science and you like danger and you like bacon sandwiches, I'm not a fan, but you know you may, please hit subscribe and also comment below what ridiculous science what if question would you like to be answered next.